ignorant of this reality. When the activities of this world come to an end, such people will taste the horrifying and terrible hell. The Quran says, "Certainly you were heedless of it, but now we have removed from you your veil, so your sight today is sharp." 63. That is, now you are seeing things that you did not even imagine before. The unbeliever's dread will never end. The unbeliever has to bear the difficulties in this world also. He remains forever in poverty or disease. The enemy always has an upper hand on him. Whenever he is not busy in the fulfillment of his carnal desires, he sits down in shame and despair. Everywhere he sees the darkness of disbelief and hopelessness. He has no hope in the Almighty. Comparing himself to the world, he feels degraded. Seeing the condition of his life, he becomes sorrowful. He complains with his tongue, and this continues till he begins to prefer death and commits suicide, thinking that this would relieve him from the worldly difficulties. However, it was a wrong notion. He is not annihilated by physical death. The horror of his heart remains with him forever. There is no escape from all this for a disbeliever while they remain on disbelief. And whoever turns away from my reminder, his shall be a straitened life, and we will raise him on the day of resurrection, blind. 64. And those whose hearts are not illuminated by the light of faith, they shall be deprived of light in the hereafter also. It shall be said, turn back and seek a light. 65. Joy and sorrow. No matter how happy an unbeliever may seem in this life, his heart is always sorrowful and under stress. First of all, he cannot fulfill all his desires. Human desires are unlimited. Due to various hurdles, he is not able to achieve even 1% of his wishes. That is why he burns forever in the fire of deprivation, and finds himself surrounded by the difficulties imposed on him by the barriers. Another thing is that he is always fearful of losing the bounties he possesses. He knows that his material treasure is going to be destroyed one day, and that it shall be taken away from him by death. Now it is Allah and the faith in the day of recompense that can keep a man happy. A believer is content, even when there is scarcity of bounties. He doesn't even fear the destruction of his material belongings. He knows that the best of bounties, better than material things, is present in his very heart. And that is faith in Allah. Even with regard to the hereafter, he is happy due to the hope he reposes in his Lord. Say, in the grace of Allah and in his mercy, in that they should rejoice. 6666. Acquire as much belief as possible. From the discussion so far, we realize that the greatest treasure for man in this world and the hereafter is a healthy and a perfect soul, and it should not be afflicted with the disease of the absence of faith. In the same way, greatest misfortune for man in both the worlds is absence of belief. Thus it is most important for us to strive to gain belief. We should always try to increase our faith. When the heart is illuminated by faith, most diseases are cured automatically. Lack of faith is a fatal disease of the heart, and it causes other spiritual ailments or worsens them. Thus we should keep ourselves safe from this deadly illness. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq A.S. is quoted in Tafsir Safi explaining the exegesis of the throne verse Ayatul Kursi. Allah is the guardian of those who have accepted belief. Allah brings these very people from the darkness into light. That is, He brings them out from the darkness of sins into the light of repentance and forgiveness. Thus the most important thing is belief. One can keep aloof from every type of evil due to one's faith alone. Belief means certainty. It should not remain unsaid that belief means certainty in the necessary facts regarding Tawheed, oneness of Allah and Day of Judgment. Such a belief is effective in curing the diseases of the heart. And the light of certainty guides man to the truth that Allah is his creator and the creator of other people. All of us are slaves of the Almighty. Allah has bestowed all that we possess. Everything belongs to Allah. We all have to return to the Day of Judgment and the world of recompense. Hereafter, one who has faith in these fundamentals is free from diseases like jealousy, greed and enmity. The brilliance and luminosity of the light of certainty dispels all the shadows and ailments. If there remain in us moral ills, we should know that either we lack certainty of belief or it is very weak. Had it been so, this creation shall be in vain. However, since the Almighty is wise and all-knowing, there must be another life for human beings where righteousness of all shall be manifested and everyone shall be recompensed for their deeds. We also gain certainty that Allah has not left man on his own. He has appointed guides from their own genre human beings. The guides of humanity are also human, whom Allah has sent to guide people towards salvation. In brief, we can say that belief in oneness of God, prophethood and Day of Judgment is based on human nature and common sense. All three of these roots of religion are self-evident or axiomatic. Deep contemplation and complicated reasoning is not required to bring faith in them. Even a little thoughtfulness convinces the unimpaired reason to acquire belief in these fundamentals. In spite of this, if someone rejects these basics, he is afflicted with the worst of spiritual and psychological diseases. And if he remains in this condition, he ultimately loses his humanity and falls into eternal perdition. The disease of disbelief is like the disease of the stomach for man. It is like severe indigestion that one cannot even swallow anything, and if something is swallowed forcibly, the stomach throws it out in vomit. If such an ailment is not cured, all the physical capacities are destroyed and the person dies. In the same way, if one has chronic disbelief and does not forego enmity and obstinacy, the Almighty Allah increases his disbelief in this world. So Allah added to their disease. 1. Actually, he is being given whatever he himself had desired. He is made to tread the path that he has chosen for himself. We will turn him to that to which he has himself turned to. Allah increases the guidance of one who accepts belief and seeks guidance. He increases the luminosity of his belief. Then he becomes a devotee of whatever he gains recognition marifat of. And he flees from every evil. And as for those who follow the right direction, he increases them in guidance. 3. Consequence of disbelief. The result of disbelief is that the heart becomes absolutely blind. Now it cannot discriminate between truth and falsehood, nor can it understand what is wrong and what is right. The reality of humanity is that, due to this quality, man can understand the reality of different things and is aware of them. Disbelief causes him to fall from this height of humanity and he becomes debased like beasts. No goodness can be expected from him. There is a continuous increase in his spiritual and internal ailments. Now he cannot find the cure for any of his aches. He does not recognize any of his evil traits, so that he can avoid it. The capacity to differentiate good and evil is destroyed. Far from finding a cure, he does not even accept that he is spiritually sick. 2 types of disbeliefs. Disbelief is of 2 types. One of it is due to ignorance and immaturity, and the other is despite having knowledge and intentionally. An ignorant disbeliever is one who does not wish to recognize the truth. He denies truth because he cannot recognize it and thus he does not accept it. Most of the atheists and materialists are such. They deny their Creator and the last day just because of their ignorance. Man spends a few years in this world. These materialists think that like other living creatures, man is also annihilated by death. There is no reward or punishment for his actions, and God forbid, Allah does not exist. Such people only follow their baseless conjectures and wrong notions. They follow not but conjecture. 4. These people live in a society filled with disbelief. They follow their elders, or in spite of ignorance they consider themselves wise and deny the truth. In the words of Quran, these people utter such things. Surely we found our fathers on a course, and surely we are followers of their footsteps. 5. Disbelief despite knowledge. Disbelief despite knowledge indicates that man recognizes the truth, but if he accepts, it will create hurdles in achieving his selfish desires. Therefore he is not attracted towards it. He does not accept it. Since this person is involved in jealousy and arrogance, he strives to falsify the truth. Diseases like selfish desires, jealousy and arrogance compel him to avoid defeat by accepting truth, and he finds excuses for it. He recognizes the truth. He knows that truth is such a kind advisor that desires nothing other than his well-being. It advises him for his own good, but his self does not like these advices. So he fights the truth and does not accept its advice. Irreligious people. Disbelief of most irreligious people is of this kind. Their conscience believes in the existence of Allah and also accepts the day of recompense. How can their conscience agree that this vast universe came into being without a creator? Their inner feelings testify that there exists a being that is wise, powerful, hearing and seeing. Conscience does not accept that man will be annihilated after death. It cannot. Believe that this life of a few days and this toy world is the permanent abode of man. It is mentioned in the biography of Stalin that, when he found some difficult political problem that he could not solve, he used to be very agitated. He used to go to the grave of Lenin and seek his help. Ultimately he used to find a solution. This was despite the fact that Stalin did not believe in religion and hereafter. But his nature and conscience knew that spirit is not annihilated even after death. Yes, man knows that if he accepts the truth he would have to obey the religious commandments. He shall be reining his desires due to the fear of Allah and the day of recompense. He would have to be careful in word and deed. He will lose the freedom of his selfish desires. That is why he does not desire to submit to the truth. He designs baseless objections and satanic excuses and becomes happy by falsifying the truth. Such people are mentioned in the following words in the Quran, and they denied them unjustly and proudly while their soul had been convinced of them. 6. Infidels of Mecca and Jews of Medina. Same was the case of the Meccan infidels. They knew Muhammad ibn Abdullah very well. They were certain that he was truthful and sane, and that the Holy Quran was not the speech of a mortal. But pride, arrogance and jealousy instigated them to deny the Prophet. They heaped false allegations upon him, that he was a liar, a magician and a madman. They opposed him and fought battles with him. The Jews of Medina were also like that. They used to consider themselves descendants of Prophet Ishaq. Therefore they used to think that they alone were deserving of prophethood and the post of guidance. They could not bear to see a prophet being raised from the progeny of Ismail. That is why they did not accept Muhammad as a prophet. Rather they waged battles against him. They knew that the prophet was speaking the truth. The prophethood of the messenger of Allah was also clear to them, and some of them had settled in Medina because they were aware of the prophecy that a prophet will migrate to Medina. They used to pray for his arrival in Medina and also that they become his supporters and defeat the infidels. But when the Holy Prophet did arrive, they remained firm on their previous ignorance. Jealousy and pride did not allow them to accept faith. And when there came to them a book from Allah verifying that which they have, and aforetime, they used to pray for victory against those who disbelieve, but when there came to them prophet that which they did recognize, they disbelieved in him. 7. Worldly punishment. If the disease of disbelief is not cured, it results in the death of humanity and the conditions worsens to a limit when the disease becomes incurable. No kind of advisory medicine can cure it then. It being alike to them whether you warn them, or do not warn them, they will not believe. 8. Now their hearts are no more receptive to advice. Their eyes and ears are no more capable of perception. The Holy Quran is evocative as regards their blindness, deafness and the closure of the way into their hearts, so much so that Allah has himself taken the responsibility of making them blind and deaf, and putting seals over their hearts. Allah says that he has dealt with them in this manner. They are also continuously punished in this world in the following way, as Allah says. Allah set a seal upon them owing to their unbelief. 9. Those it is whom Allah has cursed, so he has made them deaf and blinded their eyes. 10. But when they turned aside, Allah made their hearts turn aside. 11. In other words, we can say that initially Allah does not seal the heart of a disbeliever. He does not blind or makes deaf any person. But when a man remains in disbelief for a long time, by his own wish and will, and does not desire to come out of it, Allah increases his disease. And their unbelief does not increase the disbelievers with their Lord in anything except hatred. 12. This continues till the time the path to a disbeliever's heart is completely barred. Allah removes from him the divine opportunity tawfiq of guidance. It is a sort of spiritual retribution. And this type of punishment begins in this life itself. 2. Inner eyes. We should know that blindness, deafness and the sealing of the heart are not metaphorical. Rather the inside of man becomes like this. He in reality becomes like his inner being. Just as man has a pair of apparent eyes and ears each and a heart, in the same way he also has inner things like these organs. The traditions of the purified Imams testify to this fact. For example, in Sheikh Saduq's Tawheed there is a tradition of Imam Zainul Abidin A.S. that he said, "Know that every person has two pairs of eyes. With one pair he sees the affairs of the hereafter and with the other pair he sees the worldly affairs. When Allah intends goodness for a slave he opens his second pair of eyes, that is the eye of his heart. Thus through these eyes Allah shows him the unseen secrets. However, when Allah desires the contrary He leaves his heart on its own. An objection and its reply. The Holy Quran says, "And we will gather them together on the day of resurrection on their faces, blind and dumb and deaf." 13. And he shall say, "My Lord, why hast thou raised me blind and I was a seeing one indeed?" 14. Such verses prove that one who is spiritually blind, dumb and deaf will be raised in the hereafter while his apparent form will be blind, dumb and deaf. However, according to other verses it seems that this person will be able to see, hear and speak. For example, read your book, this day 15. This shows that he is not blind. His eyes will be open and he would be able to read. In the same way another verse says, "And could you but see when the guilty shall hang down their heads before their Lord. Our Lord, we have seen and we have heard, therefore send us back, we will do good." 16. This shows that on the day of judgment these people will be able to see, hear and speak. The objection can be replied as follows. The conditions of disbelievers on the day of judgment will depend upon the place and group in which they are included. In some instance they shall be blind, deaf and dumb, and in other places only their speaking ability shall be lost, while they would see and hear. On that day we will set a seal upon their mouths. 17. They would be allowed to speak in some places, and some of them shall advance towards others, questioning each other. 18. Blindness and deafness. It can be said that disbelievers will not be able to see the signs of divine mercy and His unlimited bounties on the day of judgment that shall be offered to the pious and the believing people. The infidels will not be able to see paradise, its inmates and its bounties. They shall be blind from this aspect. In the same way they would be unable to hear the melodious songs of paradise. They shall be deaf in this regard. But when the Almighty desires, the inmates of heaven and hell shall, staying in their respective places, be able to see each other through windows and exchange words. In gardens, they shall ask each other about the guilty, "What has brought you into hell?" They shall say, "We were not of those who prayed." 19. Here it must be clarified that like the Muslims, unbelievers will also be questioned about prayer and other obligatory acts. That is, they should have become Muslims and performed these acts. Just as the unbelievers fail to see success and truth in this world, in the hereafter also their condition will be same. They shall be blind and deaf there too. On the day of judgment their blindness and deafness will be a kind of punishment upon them. O religiousness! Perhaps you are wondering why I am emphasizing on this so much when the readers of this book and other books like this are Muslims. They are believers in the matter regarding the beginning of creation and hereafter. The fact is that the flood of infidelity has surrounded the Muslim society from all sides. Especially the new generation is in a precarious position. Using various propagandas the infidels are trying to remove faith from the hearts of young Muslims. Even if our young men remain Muslims they have scanty knowledge of religion and they have a very weak faith. Muslims should plan a systematic propagation of their religion. Every one of us must try to assure that our young people are well versed in the articles of faith and do not go astray in matters of religion. They should be immune to the deceit of enemies. But O religiousness! What can you say about their deplorable attitude that they are not even prepared to listen to any advice? They are attracted towards something else. Cure for the denial of the origin and hereafter. The unbeliever is suffering from the disease of compounded ignorance when he says that there is no wise and powerful God, there is no prophet to convey the message of God to the people, and there is no need to reward good and punish evil. He doesn't even know that he is ignorant. He is a foolish person who considers himself intelligent. From the aspect of his inner being he is a blind man who considers himself of perfect sight, of perfect reason and liberal views. The only method to cure his folly is to make him aware of his ignorance so that he may correct himself. Lack of knowledge is different from lack of realization that one lacks knowledge. He should be told that he does not know the truth. He has not recognized the Almighty. He has not understood the system of recompense in the hereafter. Lack of knowledge doesn't mean that you close your eyes to any forthcoming information. Denial is justified when you are certain that there is no God. If a person who is born blind says that sun does not exist, he should be told that the fact is he has never seen a shining sun, he does not recognize it. He should say, I know nothing about the sun. Single quote. Actually, this stance of infidels is itself sufficient to defeat them. They are actually giving a proof of their double ignorance. One is that they are ignorant of reality, secondly they are ignorant of their ignorance. Denying the sun is denying oneself. It seems the one who is denying is himself blind. 20. In doubt. The person who is denying faith must be told, for example, that, at present you are not certain that there is no God. You are just making a conjecture. Doesn't your reason tell you that probably the believers are right and there is indeed a wise and a powerful God? And that reward and punishment are realities. And it is possible that what the prophets had said was truth. If he says that he is certain there is no God, you can be sure he is lying. He doesn't want to be guided. Such a person should be left alone. But if he deals with justice and says truthfully, yes, there is a possibility of the existence of God, it is not impossible, he must be told. If you cannot find proof, you cannot say that there is no proof. This is a rational principle. Failure to find a proof does not prove its non-existence. If one cannot find something, one cannot say that that particular thing does not exist. It is possible that one has not searched in a proper way. Such a person should say, it may be there, but I could not find it. Ray of hope. If the disbeliever confesses his ignorance, you can say that there is a ray of hope. It is now possible for the light of faith to enter his heart. Now he has realized that he has doubt concerning this matter. He can remove this doubt by study and investigation. Based on human nature, every person is hungry for knowledge, intelligence and success. If he realizes this hunger, he would strive to remove the hunger of doubt and thirst of knowledge by certainty and knowledge. He gradually achieves the status of certain knowledge, ilmul yaqeen, I of certainty, ainul yaqeen, in reality of certainty, haqqul yaqeen. And finally he achieves the grade of human perfection. If Allah gives divine opportunity, tawfiq, he is not slothful in striving on this way. He tries to cross each obstacle and moves ahead. Ilmul yaqeen is complete knowledge of a thing, ainul yaqeen implies seeing something with the inner eye and being certain of it, and haqqul yaqeen comes after this, and it is the last stage. That is a certainty that is absolute. O pampered one, your doubt is a strange kind of doubt, which does not fly up to the garden of certainty. O son, every doubt is thirsty for certainty. It struggles to quench its thirst at least. And when it becomes knowledge, it begins the search for certainty. Know that knowledge is always in search for certainty. And certainty desires the eye of certainty. When this is also acquired, it becomes desirous of the reality of certainty. 21. Difference in the understanding capacity of human beings and animals. This is in fact the difference between men and animals. Man is concerned about his conditions. He confesses his ignorance and doubt. Man is superior to animals in this matter. Animals are very simple-minded. They remain unconcerned of their ignorance. They do not even know whether they are having any understanding or not. Whereas human beings have superior intelligence. It is known as compound intelligence in our terminology. A human being understands what he knows and what he is ignorant of. While animals have no desire to know more. Man is always in search of increasing his knowledge and intelligence. Thus there is a difference between the understanding of animals and human beings. Human beings have a compound understanding. Secondly, the perception of animals does not urge them to obtain more knowledge and increase their capabilities, while man does not want to have limited knowledge. Disbelievers are like beasts. The above discussion tells us that if the deniers of truth do not become aware of their ignorance and do not take steps to remove it, they are like beasts. They do not have more intelligence than animals. Let us present some verses of Quran to support our assertion. And those who disbelieve enjoy themselves and eat as the beasts eat, and the fire is their abode. 2288. Neither are they aware that they are not enjoying the bounties of Allah, nor they recognize the creator of these bounties. They are not even concerned about the aim of the creation of these things and own. Creation is as the likeness of the ass bearing books. 23. The Jews were given the Torah but they did not act upon it. So his parable is as the parable of the dog. 24. It is always barking against truth in every condition. As far as his inner being is concerned, he is an Animal. If the infidels become deceitful and start conspiring, they become like Satans. And thus did we make for every prophet an enemy, the Satans from among men and jinn. 2591. People who act like Satan will be raised with the Satan in the hereafter. Quranic cure of disbelief. Whatever we have discussed so far regarding the cure of disbelief, it is mentioned in the verses of Quran and the traditions of Ahlul Bayt. For example, pay attention to the following verses. And they say, there is nothing but our life in this world, we live and die and nothing destroys us. But time, and they have no knowledge of that, they only conjecture. 2692. We live and die implies that some of us live and some of us are born. And the system of births and deaths goes on. It may also mean that initially we are dead in the form of sperm and later we became alive. This verse has pointed out towards compounded ignorance. That is, in spite of their lack of knowledge, they consider themselves knowledgeable and issue a denial. However, some disbelievers are not compounded ignorant, they are in simple ignorance. They are aware of their ignorance. Such disbelievers are mentioned in the following verses. And when it was said, surely the promise of Allah is true, and as for the hour, there is no doubt about it, you said, we do not know what the hour is, we do not think that it will come to pass, save a passing thought, and we are not at all sure. 27. Nay, they reject that of which they have no comprehensive knowledge, and the final sequel of it has not yet come to them. Even thus did those before them reject the truth. 28. Nay, their knowledge respecting the hereafter is slight and hasty. Nay, they are in doubt about it. Nay, they are quite blind to it. 2995. Say, have you any knowledge with you so you should bring it forth to us? You only follow a conjecture and you only tell lies. 30. That is, whatever they utter is based on their whims and fancies, and is absolutely false. These verses indicate that we must inform such people who are in doubt and lack knowledge so that they can also learn the true facts. Precaution makes sense. Knowing Allah, the Prophet and the hereafter are the most important matters for human beings. If we do not have faith in them, we shall indeed be doomed to perdition. Even if one has a slight expectation that lack of belief will destroy him, he can as a precautionary measure bring faith in them. Reason dictates that one should take all possible precautions to avoid future risks. Even a slight chance of expected danger should oblige us to learn the articles of faith. Now the disbeliever has no other excuse. The Holy Quran says, do not these think that they shall be raised again for a mighty day. 31. That is, if they are not certain about it, at least they can imagine it might be true. And reason says that, even if there is a slightest chance of danger, you must be careful and take every precaution to keep yourself safe. You must obtain recognition marifat even if you feel there is a slight risk in case you do not accept faith. Not only recognition, you must act upon all such things that can bring your doom if you omit them. For example, one who cheats while selling weighing short, shall have a severe chastisement. 32. The style of Imam Jafar is Sadiq A.S. An atheist named Abdul Malik came to Imam Jafar as Sadiq A.S. The Imam said to him, do you know there are places on the earth and beneath it? Yes, he replied. Have you ever been below the earth? No. Do you know what is below the earth? I don't know, but I feel there is nothing below it. Have you been to the sky? No. Imam said, when you have never been to the west or east and never traveled to the sky or below the earth, how can you say that they have no creator? You are denying without seeing it and saying there is nothing below the earth. When a sensible person is ignorant of something, does he deny its existence altogether? The atheist said, no one spoke to me like you before. Imam asked, thus do you feel that there could be something below the earth? The atheist confesses his doubt and said, it is possible. When he confessed his doubt, the Imam began to teach him. He taught him to ponder upon the perfect system of the universe and its gigantic proportions, the details of which are available in concerned books. Anyway, the person accepted faith and became a believer in Allah. As you see, first the Imam made him aware of his ignorance. When he had come out of his compounded ignorance, he was given further knowledge by Imam. A good tree. The Almighty Allah speaks of a good tree and the evil tree in the following verses of Surah Ibrahim. Have you not considered how Allah sets forth a parable of a good word being like a good tree, whose root is firm and whose branches are in heaven, yielding its fruit in every season by the permission of its Lord. And Allah sets forth parables for men that they may be mindful. And the parable of an evil word is as an evil tree pulled up from the earth's surface, it has no stability. 33. Leaves, branches and fruits of the tree of belief. If the light of belief illuminates the heart of a person, the tree of his faith gets branches. That is, he has faith on the prophets. Especially he has faith in the last prophet and also in the 12 successors of the prophet. He believes in the hereafter, paradise and hell. The tree of belief has leaves too. That is charity, chastity, courage, justice, magnanimity, patience. All is satisfaction, reliance etc. Thus all the good qualities are the leaves of the tree of belief. The tree of belief also bears fruits. The bounties of Allah continue to descend upon the believer. The tree continues to bloom and fructify. Its roots become stronger by the day. Increase in faith and action brings increase in divine rewards. All his proximity is gained. At last he is rewarded with paradise where he shall reside forever. Consequence of disbelief. The consequence of disbelief is that when a man enters the darkness of infidelity and polytheism he denies all the beliefs of prophethood, wilayat guardianship of Ulul Bayt, day of judgment, reward, punishment and all true principles. Evil traits like greed, miserliness, jealousy, injustice, defalcation, and fornication take root in him and he begins to commit all these bad deeds. Denials of true principles of belief are the branches of the tree of disbelief, bad morals are its leaves and depravity and divine retribution are its fruits. Disbelief is a negative affair. It is due to absence of a factor. For example, ignorance is due to lack of knowledge. That is why it has neither a root nor branches and no fruit is derived from it that could please one in the world or the hereafter. Belief and disbelief. This discussion clearly shows that disbelief and belief are opposite of each other and are contradictory traits. One is knowledge, the other is ignorance. One is acceptance, the other is denial. One is good, moral and the other is filled with vices. One is the basis of good deeds and the other leads to sinful acts. One is thankfulness of bounties and the other is thanklessness. One is contentment, the other is greed. One is charity, the other is miserliness. One is generosity, the